Go for it, Kirsten.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Halloweeny edition of the Land Down Under Hangout. And today we are talking about the book Pumpkinheads by Rowell. And is Faith Erin Hicks the illustrator, or is that right?
The artist,
think
yes.
I know what I'm talking about. Yes, this is our mini read for this month. So what did we think? Who's going to?
What do we think? Who wants to go first, guys?
It was delightful.
Go, Bobby.
It was delightful. I had quite a fun time reading it. I read it in one afternoon. I was having a crappy morning, and it was a nice way to unwind. It was cute.
Very cute. Sarah?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I wasn't going to read it, but then I just happened to be looking and saw my library actually had a digital copy, and I was like, oh, I wonder how that's going to work, and it worked great. I actually like reading graphic novels digitally. I like zooming in on the panels and kind of following along. I prefer it to having a physical one. And it was really wonderful to read, and I was like, this is a book for people like us. It's full of food.
It's true.
So it's I just was like, yep, this is great. And I was same as Bobby. It might maybe be in the same weekend. It just rained all weekend. I was like, this is time to sit down, snuggle up on the couch and read a book and have all the candles on. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Matt?
Yeah, like I said before we launched into the intro, it was like about an hour read. I think I did it in 2 half-hour sessions. Pretty easy. Yeah, it was fun. It was cute. It was nice. You know, it's a wholesome little graphic novel. It was a fun little read.
Awesome. Elizabeth?
Can't say I have much to add. It was a quick read and I really enjoyed it. It was just fun. Wholesome, like Matt's description of wholesome, I think is a pretty good summation.
Yeah, wholesome I definitely agree with. Kirsten?
Yeah, I'm going to pretty much say the same as everyone else. I started reading it. I was going on my way to bed and I thought I'll just read a little bit before bed, and then I ended up finishing the whole thing before I went to sleep because it was like a really quick read. But yeah, fun. Nothing surprising in it. Like, I wasn't shocked by the ending or anything like that. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and yes, I definitely enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, that would be me. I go to any place and I'm like, I just want to know where all the food is. That's what I'm interested in. I need to go and taste all the things. So I like that.
Nice. Yeah, I read it on the 24-hour readathon, and it was a perfect break between reads. Nice and easy to do. It didn't make me go, oh wow, I love it. Just made me go, yeah, that was enjoyable. But I think that if anybody had more of an emotional connection with the setting and the experience, it probably would have resonated a little bit more than it did with me.
Yeah, it was very much my teenagehood was corn mazes. It's such a thing.
I was going to say, as our resident US representative, Bobby, do you want to talk a little bit about that experience?
For everyone. Actually, the one thing that they didn't have, which I was a bit sad about, was they didn't have kettle corn. They had all these other things that you could get, but they did not have kettle corn. And I was like,
I'm sure they had kettle corn.
I'm pretty sure they did.
That was one of the first places she was working. That was the first place he went.
Oh yeah, no, they had kettle corn.
Okay,
yep, they definitely had.
Forgotten then. That's fine. That's all right.
No, they had kettle corn because I had to look it up to figure out, is this different from popping corn? No, it's just made in a big kettle.
It's the same corn.
It's sweet. Usually there's a bit of cinnamon on there too, maybe, but it's sweet. It's like a sweet and salty, which is common here. It's not in the States. Your popcorn's always savory unless it's kettle corn.
Yeah, they have a kettle corn thing at the markets that are near us, and you can smell it cooking through the whole market. And I'm like, as soon as I smell it, I'm like, I have to go and get some of that now.
Yep.
And it's the same. It's that sweet and salty.
Oh,
it's not cinnamony though, the one that I have here, but it is that salted carrot. It's more like a salted caramely kind of thing.
A little bit of warm.
Nice.
It's so good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Whereas all I wanted was the fudge.
Fudge.
Did they actually end up getting to the fudge in the end? Because they didn't, did they?
They didn't
found
get
Marcy
to the
on
fudge shop.
Yeah.
No, because the fudge shop is kind of left behind pretty early because she's not there.
Yeah.
So they're off on the journey to go see everything else along the way. So sorry, I can't even remember. Actually, can't remember the names, any of their names. But
this is a YA book or YA novel that takes place over one night, and there is an existential development going on. They can do it. YAs can do it. Part of what I liked about it is like you had a dopey teen, but you also had a teen who was like, no, come on. We're adults now. We're getting there. Like, we're going to be going to uni. We can fuck up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love a good chaos Muppet, order Muppet dynamic, and this had that.
Yeah, no, it was good. All right, so let's just start off with the important stuff then. Which food was the food that you wanted to eat?
Well, I was
have a look.
most curious about succotash, but I think that was because I had heard the only when Matt.
I never knew it was a real thing.
The only thing I'd ever heard of it was when they say suffer and succotash. That's literally the only thing I knew about it. So I was like, I'm curious.
Oh, it's real.
I had to Google it and find out what it was.
Too. Yeah, me too.
I wanted the Frito pie.
I wanted the pumpkin bomb.
Yeah,
which is the pie wrapped in
the ice cream and the 2 pieces of pumpkin
Yeah,
pie.
that was pretty impressive. That was
Give me ice cream.
Yeah.
No.
Although I wouldn't mind the s'mores either.
they would be good too.
You can make here for the most part. You can do a possible thing. You can't make Frito pie. They don't sell Fritos.
But I've never actually done it. That's the thing.
I had to look up what a Frito pie was, because I remember, and it was funny. The Reddit about the Frito pie was hilarious because there were people going, "I expected a pie."
No, well, when they make it, it kind of is. It's a bit like a casserole when you put the Fritos on the top. If you're gonna bake it in the oven. But,
so it's a non-cased pie.
Yeah. But I mean,
so sort of like shepherd's pie is
more like a dump where you just sort of take a container and you put all the fixings in, and then you put the Fritos and you shake it up. That's how you have it when you're outside, like if you're camping or something.
So I'm going to make a suggestion, guys. I personally think that with the fireplace for Canberra, we need to do s'mores because I've never done them and I would like to try.
Absolutely.
Can you get graham crackers in Australia?
No, I'll make them. I can make them.
Okay, cool.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I just feel like after reading this, I was like, it is real shame that I have done toasted marshmallows many a time, but never done s'mores. All right.
Do you have chocolate in the s'more? Like, is it like are there graham crackers that are chocolate coated as well? Like you know how you get digestives that are plain and then you get chocolate coated? Because I know some people do s'mores with chocolate.
You know, that is a s'more. A s'more is graham cracker, chocolate, and a marshmallow sandwich. 2 pieces of graham cracker with chocolate and marshmallow.
So is chocolate supposed to melt? Graham crackers to pull the melty marshmallow off the stick.
Exactly. Yeah. So like you toast them on the stick, and then you have 1 graham cracker with a piece of chocolate, and you've got another graham cracker, and you smush them together, and you pull it off the stick.
So the chocolate probably wouldn't have enough heat to melt then, would it? It would melt a little, but not a lot.
It's a little melty, but also you want the chocolate that you typically have it with is kind of shitty chocolate. It's Hershey's chocolate. It's cheapo stuff, but it's very thin. So because I have learned here you can't use Cadbury. It's too
I was going to say Cadbury's wouldn't work.
Thin stuff. So like Lindt would probably be all right.
Those Lindt thins.
I reckon
Trip to Aldi. Trip to Aldi.
Yeah, there you go.
The Aldi stuff.
Australia's chocolate's got too much stuff in it to stop it from melting, I think, is part of the problem too.
Hershey's is too. It's very waxy. It's very, very waxy. But it's thin, so that's why it will melt by the time you're finished, but it still has a bit of bite to it.
You know what would work if you wanted to use Cadbury chocolate is those furry friends. You know those furry friends?
They're already in a little rectangle.
But they're too big, you'd have to cut them in half, but like they're super, super thin.
I reckon a chocolate Freddo would work too. That's probably about the right size.
It's quite thick actually.
You use a caramello koala and make an Aussie version of
Oh God.
Aussie s'mores.
Then it'd be caramelly and marshmallow in there.
Hey, you know, you've got a point. Got to say, if we're in Canberra, it needs to be Aussie, so why not?
So anyway,
let's go back to the book.
I mean, I'm sure that the
characters
in the book would, appreciate the tangent that we just went on.
Probably.
Well,
I felt that it was necessary to get the food out of the way first anyway.
I haven't
so-
finished yet, Mel. You're moving on from the food far too quickly. There's more
I'm
to
so
cover.
sorry. Let us discuss succotash further.
Well, it was the sour cream and raisin pie is directly from it. I don't know if you guys
Yes.
picked up on that. So that's why I was like, what is that? Because it sounded so kind of delicious but odd. So I was like, I have to make it. And it's like, yeah, it's like Christmas, which was because it's raisins and there's booze. Well, I used a recipe that suggested I add booze in, and I'm all about that. And you know, cinnamon and a bit of clove and allspice. So I was like, yeah. And so the whole thing smells like a Christmas pudding.
Nice.
That is one pie I've never ever seen. I'm sure it exists. It's probably just in a different part of the country than from what I'm used to. Because it would have definitely been apple pie and pumpkin pie and pecan pie maybe actually. Yeah.
Oh, I like
pecan pie. Oh my
Pecan
god.
pie.
Speaking of locations, is this, I'm trying to remember, do they explicitly say what state they're in?
Yeah,
Yeah?
they don't, but the
It's
author
Midwestish, right?
She lives in Denver? No, Omaha.
Nebraska, yeah, so that's Midwest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so she says at the end that she dragged the there's a bit where there's a back and forth. I don't know if you guys had in your version where between the illustrator and the author, and talks about how the author got the illustrator to come out and visit her in Omaha and then took her to like every single pumpkin patch. Which I was like, that sounds like terrible research.
I was
So
like,
hard.
is this really a thing? Like, I knew they had kind of pumpkin patches, but I was like, I didn't realize it was this elaborate with this many like shops and different things. And is it really like that big, or?
So there's usually one or two. They're family run. It's what farmers do with what's left over of their field because they fix the corn and it's drying anyway. So they turn it into a maize, and that's just how they make a bit of extra money before they fell the entire field for winter. So it's just kind of it's not only this big. There's a couple, like there's one in California, the Knoxbury farm. They actually are huge, and they're so big. They actually they on Halloween they haunt their entire farm. But they're huge compared to most of these are very small. So maybe you have a couple.
I think there was
that's it.
There was a note in some of that discussion at the back about it being based on several different ones, like an amalgamation.
She said it is. She said that it's the pumpkin patch of your it's like the most bestest, but doesn't actually really exist. It's kind of like the one of your dreams.
Yeah.
But it's interesting about Knoxbury Farm. Like that's like a place that I've always wanted to go to, but never quite understood why. Because I had friends who went there from New Zealand as kids. They went to Disneyland, but they always kept saying how much they love Knoxbury Farm. And now I'm kind of understanding why, because it must be like that American culture and all that food. It must be just something they weren't expecting, whereas you see Disney all the time and they'd never seen anything like it, and they just couldn't tell me why they loved it so much. But explains it.
Like if anyone's ever gone out fruit picking, I know that in New South Wales you can go up to the Hawkesbury and you can go and actually pick your own fruit. Knoxbury Farm is like that. They have orchards, they have veggie patches. It's huge. And so different seasons you can come and you can pick things, but they have rides. It's like a little mini carnival that's there, and you can it's historical, so you can do it's almost like its own little theme park.
I was going to say that's what this felt like a little mini theme park type thing.
Yeah.
And the fact they've got most of the high school population working there.
That's common. It's really common. Seasonal work, and it's easy work because it's just food service and cleaning up and taking tickets.
My closest understanding of these pumpkin patches is I used to watch Little People Big World, and don't know if anybody else watched that. No. And the family farm, they were the dad was very excited and set up a whole pumpkin patch thing, and then they ran weddings and just turned it into basically an event center because farming doesn't pay the bills in Seattle. But it was very cool in Portland. I can't remember. Anyway, but it was cool. I was like, I want to go. I do have to admit, this whole thing made me just go, yes, one day that would be cool to do.
Agreed, but I want it to be as good as this one. That's the problem.
I'm sure there are some you can go to, and I mean, if you go early enough with Knoxbury Farm, it's not haunted yet, so it would be more like this.
Here's the thing about food, back on the food train, something I've never understood now, well, I briefly had a fascination with and then got it and then never got excited about again was candy apples or toffee apples, depending on what you call them. I'm just like, oh, it really is just an apple.
Yeah, with a bit of sugar on the outside.
I know. And it was just like, oh, it looks so beautiful, but really, to me, they're just a gigantic letdown. Like, everyone with an apple would have an apple.
I like them better when they're made with the small little mini apples, because I find with the full ones, it's more fruit than sugar and it doesn't have the balance right. But with the small ones, it works nicely. But
I wonder whether your experience was similar to mine, Sarah, which was like, I asked my mum to buy me one 50,000 times and they kept saying no, and then eventually they caved and I finally got one and it was like, oh,
this is the biggest letdown in my life.
I'm just eating a piece of fruit.
I don't know.
It's like,
I always found the ones that I got, just the sugar was way too thick. It was. I feel like it should have been a very thin, crispy coating, but it was done so thick that you couldn't even really bite into it properly.
No, the one I had was like that too. You had to get lick the toffee for ages before you could even bite it.
Or it had been out in the sun for long enough that it was really super sticky and just really not pleasant at all. Because Australia.
They have in America are more of a caramel coating, aren't they, Bobby? Or do they do the toffee, the red toffee as well?
So you get caramel apples and you get candy apples, and candy apples are like it's like a sugar coating. They look like the Snow White apple.
Yeah, that's what the ones we get.
Toffee,
like
apples.
red
And then you get, those are candy apples. And you caramel apples would be a toffee apple, where it's the brown sugar toffee caramel sauce.
Yeah, no, what we call a toffee apple is like cooked sugar with red food colouring.
Yeah, like hard.
Because that's what we call toffee. So like the Australian toffees are like that you would buy in a school fete is like basically just sugar and water cooked until it's like brown, and then it's teeth breakingly hard, and then they set them in a little like cupcake wrapper and they sprinkle hundreds and thousands on top. And they sell them in the school fete, and they're like literally like rock hard. Every school fete I ever went to always had those little toffees that you just.
And they're terrible to eat because eventually they just sort of start to stretch.
Yeah.
And they're a mess.
Caramel apples are similar, where it's either so thick that when you bite it, your teeth don't even get to the apple and it just slides down the outside because it's soft. It is quite soft. Or it's there's not quite enough. I mean, we used to get one, and Mum would cut them up and split them between all the like cousins because we'd all go together. Because otherwise you wouldn't eat it. You just couldn't bite into it.
Yeah.
Stick to the s'mores.
Go the s'mores.
Yeah.
Or pumpkin pie with ice cream in between.
Pumpkin pie.
And the kids were asking me about the candy corns on my dress, and they were like, "What do candy corns taste like?" And I said, "Sugar." And Claire said, "I really like sugar."
Of course she did.
They just don't taste like all sorts. They're not licoricey at all. So they taste like marshmallowy, kind of sugary, but they're the texture of an all sorts. It's a bit chocolate.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I have had them before. And I was trying to
texture.
explain the flavour, and I was like, I don't think it really had much of a flavour. It just tasted like sugar.
Yep.
And Claire was like, well, I would like it because I like sugar.
It's such a kid's response, isn't it? It's like such a little kid's response. I love sugar.
Obviously.
Not
that I'm complaining. I love sugar too. I just like my sugar to have some flavouring with it.
Or alcohol, that helps too.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah, very nice. Good. All right. Shall we actually talk about the story, or are we still on the food?
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say the succotash, when I saw what the guys were doing, it reminds me of at the markets how you get the big kettles of what's the Spanish thing?
Paella.
Paella. It kind of reminded me of what we get here with that. I was like, oh, I think I would prefer succotash.
As long as it didn't have the okra. I'm sorry. I can eat okra, but I do not like it.
I agree. It's not particularly great. I think it's just because it bulks it out. Like the only good okra I ever had was in Egypt. Yeah, but
very interesting plant. Like when you cut it and it comes into contact with air, it goes slimy, which is why fried okra is the way most people eat it, because that doesn't come into contact with air.
And that's the way I had it in Egypt.
Yeah. Whereas the only way I've had it was when my my uncle's partner would cook it, and it was just steamed, and this was not pleasant.
steaming zucchini. It's too watery as it is. You shouldn't steam.
No, okra. It was steamed okra.
No. I'm saying that's like having a steamed zucchini where it's so watery that you're just adding more water to it. It just
yeah. I would say it had less structure than zucchini. Zucchini is at least is like a solid mass, whereas okra's got like a lot of holes in it. So it's almost like eating a chili that's not hot.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we can talk about the story now. Sorry, I love talking about the food.
I'm sure.
All right, let's talk about the story. Okay, so I'm going to be honest and say that I actually found the romance part of the story kind of annoying. I enjoyed the setting, I enjoyed the friendship, but I found the whole romance thing just like, you could have just left that part out.
I thought it was very predictable. I had pegged it from the first few pages that like he's going to finally meet this girl that they're chasing after, realize he doesn't really like her, he likes his friend after all. And I was like, yep, that's what happened. And I didn't mind. Like, I was like, yeah, well, it's, it's a teenage romance.
It is what it is.
And a teenage romance kind of.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Teenager, I would have loved it.
I appreciated for that it didn't get stupid or complex. It just was very obvious what it was, and it got there, and it did exactly what you could predict it. I appreciated that part of it. I was just like, I could have just enjoyed this as much being friends, having their last night running around.
Yeah, I love that premise to begin with. And I also feel like there's not enough, personally, there's not enough friendship, I guess, representation that doesn't end in romance. Like
especially between males and females.
Yes, and between someone who seems to identify as bi or queer and someone who's obviously straight. I loved that. And I was like, this is cool. We need more of this. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is where it's going. Look, I forgive it. It's a YA, it's a graphic novel, like it's Rowell. But I was also like, and also, how are you going to, what are we resolving? That was the other question. But at the same time, I was like, just great friendships, look, it's no When Harry Met Sally, we'll put it that way.
I did at least appreciate that, even though the implication was that she had quite liked him, like had a crush on him for a while, she didn't hang around for him. She was dating other people, and we get to meet all these other people that she was dating and things that she liked about them and things that she didn't. So I did at least appreciate that. It was really predictable.
Also, it was a romance grounded in a solid friendship. So
which is
I appreciated seeing that as well.
Showing that kind of thing. Yeah.
And they didn't do stupid misunderstandings and things. She knew where she stood and where things were. And like Bobby said, went and had other relationships and that. And I didn't feel like it was, I don't want to say malicious, but I didn't feel like her desire to have him talk to this other girl was based in her expecting him to get with her. It was just her wanting to help her friend.
Yeah. I thought she was just trying to help him live his best life. And as a friend, she was like, look, I might have a crush on you, but as a friend, you need to stop living in your head and get out into the world. Because she'd been doing that for 3 years and had looks like some amazing experiences. Yeah. Except she hadn't been trying the pie or the fudge or anything else. I was like, I'm with you, Deja. You need to. She said, I have waited too long to try everything. You're right.
I love the way she kept getting sidetracked by the food. And then chasing the kid that stole. What did he steal?
That was good. I did enjoy that. And the goat was funny. That was hilarious.
I just wanted, everything was fabulous except for I just didn't want the romantic element. I just wanted to be the friends enjoying their last night at this location and then making a commitment to be best friends, going on, even though they weren't going to work there and stuff. I don't know. But the problem is that I do see how it might have been hard to make the story of that motion of them running around happen without the element of going to find the girl. But then maybe they could have done that without her wanting to be interested in him.
Well, when they got to the fudge shop and they said she was at the small pit, I actually went back to have a look at the map in the front and noticed that
there's a map. I have to have a look.
Yeah, there's a map in the hard copy, at least anyway. The small pit was right across from the succotash hut, and I thought maybe she'd gone to stake him out as he was going to stake her out.
I thought the same thing too.
Briefly.
No, there's no map in the digital version. What the hell?
Hang
It
on.
was on mine.
They used it for the end papers in the
Oh, maybe it's there.
Oh, I see. I was like, mine doesn't have a map, and then I didn't realize I was.
Yeah, it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
I'll have
definitely
another
don't
look.
have it.
Now
Did you?
The
Sorry?
maze is quite big.
Here it is.
Oh, I can't. Can I make it go up? Can I? Spotlight for everyone. There we go. Okay.
Oh,
Chicken race.
Look at that. See, that would have been really nice to have during the reading. That's what I was supposed to have the digital version, and because the library was I was supposed to have the borrowed library version, and I'm very disappointed in the fact that I couldn't get it in the end because of shenanigans with COVID and all of that bullshit, and I had to buy the digital version. And I do feel like this is okay. So anybody watching this, if you've managed to get this far, congratulations, you got through all our talk about food. And
That's
I would
probably
just
what
like
they're
to
here
say,
for.
yeah. And if you haven't already read this book, please go get the physical version because I feel like the map would have added to the experience a lot.
maybe. I also just I just want to counter that with I enjoy reading digitally. I enjoy reading the panels, and I was zooming in and out, and I love that experience. And
I'm 100% with you, Sarah.
I love
99% of the
maps.
times. Like all of my comics are pretty much digitally nowadays, so I agree with you entirely. But the fact that this copy doesn't include the map, for me,
Yeah.
I'm like, that would have added to this reading
it's a
experience.
massive oversight.
I think that should
Map
include it.
online
Comixology,
separately.
mine had a map and it was digital. I got mine was with Kindle and Comixology.
Yeah, mine's on Kindle, but I don't have the map.
Okay, I'll be back in a sec, guys. My camera's going to go off, but I'll still be here. I'm going to go check with the library.
Wow.
system.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's being a
Wow.
pain in the ass. And,
Why do I not have the map and you do? Where is the map?
I don't know. Mine was the very front.
With the map though, like I looked at it at the start, like I was like, oh, I'll check out the map. I never went back and re-looked at it.
No,
during the
I
See, I'm a
entire
map
read.
girl though.
It
I
was
do that.
Yeah.
I'm a map girl. I constantly go back and check it. But then I have like Niall likes to call me a GPS because I have extreme spatial awareness. And so I feel like maybe that's part of why I'm a map girl. So maybe I'm making my recommendation too strongly.
And I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah, I'm a map girl too, as you know, but I didn't detract from my experience of it. I think it's because I felt that it was very obvious that the author knew exactly where things were in this world. Like it didn't feel haphazard like it does in other books. Like they'd obviously created a map, and I just didn't realize that it had been published, but I felt like they know where things are in relation to everything else. Excellent, right?
Yeah,
So,
see, I want to know where things are in relationship to everything else.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything in here. I think you're right. My version, I'm going to cat. No.
I've been all through
Sorry.
mine. I can't find it. It's not at the end. It's not at the beginning. And I'm even swiping through the chapters now and I can't find any maps.
Yep,
so
no, I
don't
don't
know
have it
how you
either.
got it, Bobby.
Yep, I don't have it either.
Did you get them through Comixology?
No, Kindle. I couldn't find it on Comixology. I tried.
Bobby got hers through Comixology.
Mine was just whatever.
Are you on the American Comixology, Bobby?
Yeah.
So that must be the difference.
Must be it.
I tried Comixology first because that's my preferred way because I like the way the Comixology app works. But for comics, obviously. So I had to go with Kindle, which I didn't enjoy as much by any means, especially for a digital reading experience, which I think is possibly why I'm also not like going, oh, digital reading experience, like I usually am.
Yeah, I don't know what they used for the reader of this because the address is just OFS. It says read.overdrive, and it was definitely not as nice, but it wasn't. It's just yeah.
Anyway.
I've got the same issue. The last page is actually just more. It just shows more novels by Rainbow Rowell.
I found Overdrive is not as nice to read on as like.
It really wasn't. In fact, I couldn't work out how to. That's one of the reasons I ended up reading it in panels because I couldn't work out how to make it full screen. But as it turned out, that actually enhanced my experience because I was kind of just zooming in and out. But
with so many of the shots being like these big full views and things, it was the kind of thing that it was good to zoom in on the bits that you wanted to see. I felt like too. So that was fine.
Comixology, it normally zooms on each panel and then at the end of the page it zooms out so you can see the whole page as a
out.
whole,
Yeah.
which is
That's why I like the Comixology app. I do generally like the way they sort of plot the viewing experience
it's
of a
well done.
page. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, I felt like this one, and this is something I think Matt should probably comment on as well. I felt like this one was the kind of comic that was less about, like the visuals were there, but it was less about the visuals communicating lots of things the way other comics are. This one felt more about just the basic storyline, which is why I felt like it was a faster read than other comics usually are, where you're wanting to pick up on the visual cues.
I would agree with that. I think the artwork is very straightforward, and it's not trying to tell the story itself. It's assisting the narrative move along. It's not really trying to do anything more there.
But then I felt like the story's like that too, right? It's a very straightforward story.
Well, that's what I was going to say about the map is like from the way I felt about it was like where the location of things wasn't actually really important because the story moved you to where you needed to be, and knowing where those things were located really wasn't. I know that's your mappy thing, but from the story, it's not an important thing. That's already pre-planned out, and they just move around. So.
Yeah, maybe with the map, it probably assisted with you feeling like you were constantly running around the whole thing. Whereas if you knew how close you were, a little bit less.
It's a cool addition, but you don't need to be like, oh, now where are they now? Because if I don't know where they are,
whereas I think perhaps for me, because I'm just so spatially aware, that for me, I was like, I want that. Now that, like, I didn't know I could have it, but now that I can, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I'd had it.
I actually just thinking, I'm kind of glad I didn't have it because I got surprised by the train. And I think if I'd seen that, I'd be like, oh yeah, there's a train. Whereas I actually enjoyed the whole, there's a train? Like, how big is this place?
Whereas I'm picturing how I would love to retell this story using a tool like, what's that presentation tool? Prezi, that's online, so that you can zoom in, like, and there is a trail to follow, but you could also skip to it by clicking on the locations and seeing that part. Oh my God, this story would be so good retold through Prezi.
It would work very well.
Yeah, sorry.
I was commenting on the kind of art style and stuff being simple. It did read a lot like a lot of middle grade graphic novels that I've read.
Yeah.
I've read quite a few because I tend to read them when they come into our library because I can just sit down and read it in one sitting and go, yep. Like whereas when kids' novels come in, I don't have time for that, so I don't always get to read them. But I read nearly all the graphic novels that I buy for the school library. And apart from the fact that it's a romance kind of storyline, it read very much like a lot of the middle grade ones.
I'd actually argue that it could be considered middle grade, just like lots of middle grade has a little bit of romance in it, and the romance in this is very simple. It's just the age that makes it YA for us. So in the end, it could be considered middle age, just in a slightly older setting.
There wasn't really any content in it that I think would have been an issue. It's more the interest level for the kids age that I have in my school. Like I don't know how many. I mean, probably some of them would be interested, but not all of them. I don't know.
I actually ended it.
It seemed like a very easy read. I would call it a very young YA.
Yeah, I actually struggled with it in terms of thinking, can I give this to my niece and nephew? Because my niece is she's literally in the YA category right now. She's 18 in a couple of months. Sorry, next month.
Right.
And I was like, could I give this to her? And I was like, no, she would consider this too basic. She wouldn't enjoy this at all. Whereas my nephew, who is 13, and I do think it would be the right age, he wouldn't like it because romance. And so I was like, I have no one I could actually give this to and say, hey, you'll enjoy this. It's nice and sweet. Except for you guys, of course.
Yeah.
But it is sweet.
It was.
Yeah, it was. It was very, very nice.
Is there anything else we want to talk about, guys?
The goat was cute. I liked at the end how it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. Like I was like, oh, and it was like, pumpkin stuff, yum. It was cute.
It added a nice little, like that was to me the visual element of the story. Like most of the time there was very little of that was in the written, and that was the visual element of the story that you needed to look at the pictures to see the story of the goat.
Yeah. I did like the is it Jess? She dated two people called Jess. What was it?
Yes,
The
that was
One was
Sire.
a guy, one was a girl.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the Sire. Oh, what was it? Oh, Jess the Sire. And then you mentioned, and I was
Yeah,
like,
that was
this
great.
is hilarious. That was so good. I was actually just like, okay, I'm in. This is hilarious.
I like
This is
that play of
hilarious.
names, and also the fact that Josiah was called Josie. It was like, yes, they're
Yeah.
playing with the names a little bit there in terms of sexual identification and things. So that was
Oh,
nice.
and
no, I
speaking of
enjoyed
names, I was like, so is her name Deja, like Deja
Like
Vu?
Deja
And
Vu?
then
Yeah.
there was a chapter where it was like Deja Vu was the name of the chapter, and I was like, oh, I guess that's how you say it.
Guess
Because I was
so.
like, is that how you pronounce it, or do you? Yeah. And then I was like, I guess that's how you say it.
God, I hadn't even made that connection.
No, because that's one of the
There's a whole-
chapters that's actually called Deja Vu.
No, I'm just like one of those, I'm a very visual reader and I don't necessarily think of things out loud until we get into hangouts like this. And then I'm like, oh.
So you're not someone who says the thing in your head, like you don't.
I do,
I
and
see
I
the
get so
words, I
frustrated
don't
when I
think of
can't.
how it's said.
See,
at all.
I do.
I'm saying it.
I do.
I do too, and I
I'm saying
hate it
it
when I
myself.
can't pronounce a word, even though I'm reading it in my head, and when I can't pronounce it, it's like jarring to me as I'm reading.
Mm.
And then I come up with my way, and then I find out it's the wrong fucking way, and it's like,
Oh, almost always, Matt. Almost always, Matt. That happens to me every time because I have got extremely bad pronunciation. I do not have good phonics,
Yeah.
which is one of the good reasons why it's not that I'm not a primary school classroom teacher anymore.
Yeah. But I think wasn't that something like back at the beginning of quarantine that came out was, people realizing that not everybody says things inside their head, or others realizing that people would say the things in their head. It was like, really, you don't? I think that was a thing, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing that too.
And I was like, yeah, I'm that person. I see a word, I say it in my head.
Mhm.
And I just read it.
Yeah, it's just
I
like
do-
a
I-
recognition of the shape of the word. You're like,
Yes,
that's that
exactly
word.
that. Yeah.
I wonder whether that's because that's why you're a quick reader, if you can do that and not
Possibly.
actually read it.
A lot
in
of it
the
is
voice of the head.
actually tied to me, like my being a bad speller as well, because I never learnt. I learnt reading mostly through memorization. I learnt very early, and I learnt faster than my teachers were teaching me. So I find that and this is what my high school. When I was teaching at the high school and in the English department, the head of department identified this about me, was that most people who have this problem have learnt to read by themselves or early, and so they haven't learnt the phonetical structure of words as they go along, which causes them to be bad spellers, which was my problem. So hence she made me the head of the spelling club and said, that's going to help you do better. I'm like, great.
Mhm.
Because kids
Oh,
love going to lunchtime spelling club.
Oh no.
Hey, I'm sure some of
Did any of them choose to be there, or were they forced to be there?
No, it was all by choice, and they were all top students. They all were the same as me, basically, which is why she did it, because she was like, it will help you and it will be good for them to have someone they can identify with that has got the same problem. And it's true, it did actually help me. But by the same token, spelling club at lunchtime. Anyway,
Oh man.
sorry, I've had now a lot of vodka.
Did it at least have playground tea?
I love the way you're
if I
wearing
had the
this
choice
little
between
hat.
walking around the oval and going to spelling club, I would pick spelling club.
Look, I would pick spelling club personally too, and some of the kids obviously did because it actually happened for a while. And I didn't mind it because I did learn a lot in terms of it. They don't teach, it wasn't phonetical teaching the way we do in primary school. It was more learning about the origins of words and why I before E except after C is not a rule at all. In fact, there's there are actual rules and
more of a guideline.
it's not even a good guideline because there's literally more exceptions than there are rules that follow the rules. So
Except every time I spell the word receive, I repeat in my head I before E except after C. So I remember that it's an E first in receive.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we use, but actually doesn't make any sense that we use. That's the problem. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff I learned. And yeah, that's the one that sticks in my head though. But I learned a lot of like origins of English words and why
So like
they don't follow the
etymology type
rules.
thing.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. So why they don't follow the rules, because they come from different European languages and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I would actually enjoy that. I find that really interesting. That
I find it really cool.
Yeah, it was fascinating. But it
English
wasn't
just goes, we'll have a bit of that, a bit of that. Oh, that's a good one. We'll have that one.
Yeah.
We're going to get that one. And then we'll just
I
mix
love
with
the
it, and
whole
it will
thing with
sound
the-
kind of like that, but not.
Yeah.
like
There's a
words
reason
for-
why sorry.
No, you go.
There's a reason why in the English language we say there's always an exception, and that's because our language is built on so many other languages, which therefore builds and creates so many exceptions.
Yeah.
Sorry, go Kirsten.
I was just going to say the thing about the word for cow and the word for beef come from different languages, and the word that we have for the livestock is different from the word that we have for the meat
And
that
it's
comes
the
from
food,
that
yeah.
livestock, because one of them was like
Pig, pork.
one of them was the French, the Norman word, and one
Yeah.
of them was the Saxon word. And it was
Ah.
because the Normans were the ones that were in charge. So all the French words are the words. So like birth is birth. I can't do French.
Biff.
But beef and birth, like, whereas the cow word comes from the Saxon because they were the ones looking after the cows, and then the Normans were the ones that were eating it.
And they were also trading. They were
But eating it is the French
Ah.
version.
Yeah.
And then and I was like, I just think that's fascinating.
It's funny.
Just
Well,
reminding you
basically,
guys that
street
you're the
English,
lower
your
class.
Basic English is it's almost identical to street German, your basic conversational German, where you're not talking about academics, you're just having a beer. Anyone can basically learn that. If you can learn English, you can learn that, because they're almost the same. The syntax is exactly the same. It's when you get into academic English is where it becomes very, very French. And that's because you had the aristocracy and the trade and everything come in, and it trickled down into the peasants because they had to learn and understand, but even though they didn't write it, but they had to be able to communicate because they were selling things. And then also they were like, oh, I want to be fancy pants. I want to keep up with the Joneses, so I've got to learn these words.
I am now trying to figure out how we got to this conversation from Pumpkin.
Anyway, Deja.
That's how it was.
Deja.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
All right. Guys, I think
Anyway,
I feel like
graphic
we've done
novel.
this. Anything else? Everyone good?
Nope.
I'd
I think we're good.
like to read more. I enjoyed it. This is perfect kind of stuff. It was a nice little read.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was
Read
cute.
it.
And
Read it if
I
you
love-
need like a Hufflepuff break from the world.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's what this is perfect for.
Food and
Yeah.
friends.
Yes,
Food and
it
friends.
was a very
all in
hot
one night.
couple.
I love all in one night settings or all in one day.
Yes, that is
They
nice
are
as well.
great. They're
Oh,
really
it was
nice.
like that. It was. I just realised it was like the YA version of Before Sun. Is it Before Sunrise? Which
Before
was the first one?
sunrise.
Well,
Yeah.
sunrise.
It is.
There you go.
That was kind of like it was similar kind of thing where it was one night and they were going from place to place and they were talking about stuff, and obviously it was a lot more grown up than this was, but same kind of vibe, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I like
Nice
it.
and
In
simple.
fact, Mel, that's what you should tell your niece to watch is Before Sunrise.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Thank you, anybody who joined us tonight. We enjoyed having you. Thank you for watching me get more drunk over the progressive hour or so that we've been talking. And we'll see you next time for Jade. Oh no, Gods of Jade
Gods
and
of Jade and
Shadow.
Shadow.
Yes, awesome. All right, night, guys.